Yeah, yeah. Making her way to the mic. They start dimming the lights. You start feeling alright. From Birmingham, home of the Teddy Longs and the Ruben Studders. More once you discover. For all of the lovers, Whitney Houston and Roman Reigns. For all of the lovers, and Mickey James and Marvin Gaye. For all of the lovers, and Sasha Banks, Janelle Monáe, Silk, Sonic, and Paige. Allow me to say, look, I just found a place, sweet escape for every one of us. I was kinda late, so I just made it off the struggle bus. Walking by the fate, cause I know it's right in front of us. Yo, I ain't with the hate, gotta focus on what's great. Ladies and gentlemen, Steph Hardy is on the air. Had to drop a couple bars just to make you all aware. So, sit back, relax, enjoy the show. You know I go by Joe or the rest of the flow, yeah.
Hey y'all, welcome to a new episode of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast Extra with your girl Stephanie Hardy. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this Monday night. Monday Night Raw just ended. So if you are watching right after Monday Night Raw, then thank you. And of course, if you're going to watch this later or listen to this later, thank you for that too. Of course, I am back from my fantastic trip to Atlanta for Bad Blood. And I'm going to get into it here because there is so much that took place and so much that I want to address in my own way. So I am just so grateful to be before you on this night. And I am just so happy to even have this opportunity that I did have to travel to Atlanta, to see all the people that I did see, to see all the things that I saw, and to just embrace where WWE is at this point. And of course, we're going to get into the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I know, of course, we are still processing the first episode of Monday Night Raw that was just 2 hours for the first time since 2012. And we're still processing that while also processing everything that took place on Saturday. So if you are watching and if you have comments and everything that you want to discuss about Bad Blood, please light up the chat. Go crazy in the comments, and you and all of your thoughts might pop up on the screen. So, of course, thank you all so much for watching live on tonight. And we're going to get into the nitty gritty. And I am just so happy to have had the opportunity to go to Atlanta. Atlanta is a special city for me anyway, because of course I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. So basically, Atlanta was always like the big city, the bigger city that was just next door to us. It's like 2.5 hours to 3 hours away from us. And so every time I went to Atlanta was always a good time, whether it was going to Six Flags over Georgia or whether it was to see the Coca-Cola Center, which is now the World of Coca-Cola, and just doing so many other different things with so many different family members. Atlanta, Georgia is basically like a second home to me. And it's a really great place to go. And it's just a city that's always thriving and always growing. And that was definitely on display during this trip. I see Mark with Mike's. Hey, thank you so much for watching tonight on Twitter. Thank you so much. I know it's called X, but I still call it Twitter. And as you can see, there's that picture of me standing in front of the Bad Blood store that was at the CNN Center. I was just really thrilled to be out there with Emily May and Joel from Contralona. I was so happy to hang out with them throughout the entire weekend. It was just a really great time to be had and lots of great memories to be had as well. Um, that's Joel. It's kind of like a cut off picture of Joel, but he was standing in front of the vintage Coke machine that was in the World of Coca-Cola. And that's a picture of me and a gentleman that we met outside of well, not outside, but near the Olympic Park. And he was promoting Planned Parenthood. And we had such a great and deep discussion about a woman's right to choose and healthcare. So that was really cool and a really great experience. And he loved my Powerpuff Girls jersey. Shout out to everyone who was really nice about my Powerpuff Girls jersey. I had on the Bubbles one that day. Blossom and Buttercup were at the house, but I just wanted to wear that one because that's my favorite one. And and the Powerpuff Girl that I relate to the most. So it was just really cool to wear that around and just see everyone and see everything. Going shopping at the store was a huge experience. If you haven't already followed me on social media, at Queen Steph Hardy and at Hardy Wrestling Podcast, I did post a video of my experience at the Bad Blood store. It was so amazing and full of such cute stuff. And I bought myself a shirt and I bought stuff for my family and stuff. So it was just a really cool experience. I loved being in Atlanta for this event specifically. And I will get further into, why it was nice to be in such an authentic and thriving city like Atlanta in just a little while. But I loved my trip, and of course, in that picture you have the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is right across from the State Farm Arena where Bad Blood was held. And it's really interesting how I've seen Atlanta change over the years because the biggest arena over there used to be the Georgia Dome, which is where WrestleMania 27 was at. And that was my first WrestleMania in 2011. And even though a lot of wrestling critics tend to come down on it really hard, it's still special for me because it's the first one I ever went to. And of course, the Georgia Dome was torn down after a few years. And excuse me. And then, of course, they built Mercedes Benz. Now, will WrestleMania ever happen in Atlanta again? I don't know. But it would be really cool if it did just for the South. But I'm also praying for one day WrestleMania being held in Birmingham. I'm not entirely sure where at this point. I know my boyfriend says Bryant Denny Stadium could hold it, or could hold any big four PLE. So we just have to wait and see. And we're manifesting big things. But before that happens, it would be cool to see it in Atlanta too at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium because this is where the Atlanta Falcons play. So it was just really amazing to just see everything and just see how the city has grown. So moving into the PLE itself, we have to get into the women's matches. And Nia versus Bailey, experiencing all of this entire pay per view was a blessing in and of itself. The production was beautiful. All the colors of red were surrounding the State Farm Arena, which is already red enough anyway because of the Atlanta Hawks. Shout out to them. And it was just a really beautiful atmosphere, even with the Hell in a Cell cage just hanging. It was just a beautiful setup. So, with the beautiful setup and with all the red, you had Nia Jax slaying with her red makeup and slaying with her red gear and everything, going up against Bailey. Of course, this is sort of like a continuation of their feud from which led into SummerSlam, where Nia Jax ultimately, cashed in her Queen of the Ring qualification and won the women's title. This match was very hard hitting and it was very brawl heavy while also being very strength heavy as well because Bailey was lifting Nia all over the place. But this match was definitely a showcase of how much Nia has grown in the ring since before she returned and even after she's returned. Like, I know she had a rough go of it during her first initial run because a lot of superstars really felt, well, not superstars, excuse me, a lot of wrestling fans really did feel like, oh, well, she messed up a lot of moves here and there and she hurt this person and she hurt this person. And honestly, when it comes to improvement, she really has cleaned up different a lot of different things in her arsenal, and this was definitely on full display here. This is probably one of the best matches that she has had this year, and she did such a fantastic job. She looked amazing. She looked fantastic. And also shout out to Sir Wilkins of the Jobber Tears podcast. He was sitting behind me and he was just losing his mind for her because he just loves Nia Jax so much. And it was just really funny to listen to and everything. It was just really fun to sit with him and also Muscle Man Malcolm. Shout out to him as well. Um, we were just having so much fun, and he was just so thrilled to see her, and I was thrilled to see her in her element here too. But the craziest part about this match wasn't even just Bailey, lifting Nia up and Nia actually doing a hurricanrana low key. Another crazy part was Tiffany Stratton. Tiffany is teasing us with the Money in the Bank briefcase. And this is like the 50, 11th time I know it's not 5011, but this is like the billionth time that she has popped up thinking that she's going to cash in, but then pretending like she isn't because she wants to remain in the good graces of Nia Jax, the queen. And it's so sad to see because just last week, Tiffany got choked out by her, and she seemed very upset about that to a certain degree, but still trying to be in the good graces of Nia. And a part of me just really wants for Tiffany to just stand on her own 2 feet. Like, if she's gonna really, like, cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase and truly stand on it, you don't just win a match like that and then just carry it, for God knows how long, for over a year and do nothing with it. Now, mind you, I know it hasn't been over a year because she won it in July. I was there. But I am just waiting, for her to have her moment in the sun. And the way that Nia rose up like The Undertaker was absolutely hilarious. But oh my God, Tiffany just keeps, just fighting her urges to cash in and just make herself famous, as The Undertaker would say. And I just really want for her to have her moment, but it just seems like they're really holding off on it. And also from a merchandising degree, the Money in the Bank briefcase that's personalized for Tiffany is on pre-order. So of course they're gonna hold off on it until she actually cashes it in. So they can get those pre-orders in and just, sell everything and get everything together. But at the same time, I just want Tiffany to be her own woman. So, we just gotta wait and see how that's gonna play out. But oh my God, thinking that Tiffy was just gonna um cash in and hearing everybody chant Tiffy time was really lit. So I'm sure Tiffany will figure it out, but I really am just waiting for her to just unleash on Nia and just say, no, like, I am the buff Barbie. Like, I am an NXT Women's Champion. Like, this is me. I'm the future. Move out the way. But we just got to wait and see. But either way, Nia Jax, of course, retained her title against Bailey due to interference from Tiffany. And yeah, we just got to wait and see what happens with that. Also, in terms of the women, we had Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan for the Women's World Championship with Dominic in a shark cage. And let me just say, I was rolling my eyes in the back of my head when they showed her riding with Dominic in the lowrider and everything. And what's so funny is it's just Dominic just wants to be like his wannabe dad, Eddie Guerrero, so bad. Rest in peace to him. But the thing that just irritates me further about her is just the idea that she just keeps flaunting him. And it almost seems like she seems more excited about having Dominic and having the Judgment Day than she does about being Women's World Champion. And that's really what irritates me the most. It's just, of course, she did her revenge tour and she's happy about doing her revenge tour and making Rhea's life a living heck. But at the same time, it's just she seems more excited about the revenge and more excited about having a boyfriend than she does about being the champion. And it just bothers me. Like, ma'am, what type of glory do you want to give to being a champion? Because the first time you were a champion, you cashed in on Ronda Rousey, yeah, and you were the champion and it was great. But at the same time, to certain wrestling critics, it wasn't exactly the greatest reign that anybody could have had and or the most memorable. So the idea that now you won this title and now it's all about you and a guy is just kind of like, girl, refocus, replenish your goals. Like, stop it. But I will say this, as dominant as Rhea Ripley looked in this match, I hated that she got sidetracked with Dominic and trying to punish him as he was hanging out of the shark cage and basically turning him into a human pinata. And then that opened the door for Raquel to attack her and basically for her to win in DQ but not have her be champion. And it was just kind of like, God dang it, what is it gonna take for Rhea to really like lock in and get this title and not just be so focused on punishing Dominic? This entire feud does not need to be about, oh well, he dumped me and he broke my heart and he, went off with Liv and all of the above. Like, it doesn't need to be about that. Men should stay out of women's business. And that's literally how I've always felt. And this is how I still feel now. I'm gonna really need for both of these women, that is, if not Raquel, getting in on things as a possible new member of Judgment Day, or, a heavy for Liv and all of the above, to lock in and feud over this title like the women warriors that they are. Please, 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 just refocus on the title. Refocus on the title, I'm begging you, because men should just really stay out of women's business. So I did enjoy this match. It was really entertaining. And I did enjoy the fact that there were a couple of maneuvers that I hadn't seen Liv do before on Rhea Ripley. But at the same time, I'm just gonna need for Dominic to stay out of their business. And that's just the truth. Like, just don't even just make it about him anymore. Just leave him out of it and just make it about the title. Because here again, women do more than just fight over dudes. In fact, some of us don't even fight over dudes. Some of us really just let dudes go now and just be like, okay, whatever, goodbye. So, yeah, that's how I felt about that match as a whole. But I'm just really ready for Dominic to just be out of things. And of course, Liv Morgan retained the title. Raquel is back in the swing of things, looking amazing, looking like an absolute badass that she used to look like in NXT before, of course, she was called up and everything. And I always preferred Raquel Rodriguez as a heel. I always did, because her as a heel to me just made more sense to me than her as a face. Now, I love watching her beautiful smile and, of course, watching her flex her muscles and all of the above. But her as a heel just made more sense. And when her and Rhea battled each other in NXT, it was legendary. So I just can't wait to see whatever form their rivalry is going to take here on the main roster now that Raquel is back. And I'm just so happy that she's healthy and, just back to just shake things up. I'm really pumped about that. Yeah, more. These are more pictures of them. And of course, in talking about the women, I have to talk about how amazing the big three looked as the hosts of Bad Blood. I cannot get over how beautiful these women looked. Now, of course, they didn't necessarily make their entrance on the Peacock PLE as it showed on screen. So we saw them sort of a little bit before, but then when the show started, they were on there in all of their red and splendor, and they looked so beautiful. These women just ooze charisma and just ooze elegance and regalness and all of the things. And I am just so proud of all three of these Black women. And then the idea that they were there in the same building as Jacqueline, who is a WWE Hall of Famer and women's champion, who essentially opened the doors for all three of these women to thrive and succeed the way that they are. It was just a blessing to witness, in the midst of all of the splendor of all of the authentic Blackness that was on display throughout the city of Atlanta, and just, throughout the event itself. They were definitely like primed in a place where they were just so beautiful and just so excellent. And I do wish that we did see more of them on the pay-per-view, or at least on screen, because we only got like maybe 3 moments with them. But the moments I did see them, though, they definitely blessed me, and they bless me every time I see them. So, to Bianca Belair, to Jade Cargill, to Naomi, if you are watching this or if you hear this at some point, just know that you blessed this Black woman on media at Bad Blood. You blessed me. You blessed me. You blessed me, because y'all are just so powerful. And you just make me feel like I can just run through brick walls. And they just look so amazing. And in speaking of Jacqueline, they also had a lot of different other legends on display as well, throughout the event, like DDP and Lillian Garcia and Booker T and stuff like that. And funny enough, right behind Jacqueline, you can see Bianca Belair's mom and the other children in their family, as well as her father. It was really cool to see them again, because I hadn't really seen them since Love and WWE, Bianca and Montez. So it was just really nice to see them at the event supporting Bianca as well. So that was really cool. And then Mickey James was there. Oh my God. Mickey James, one of my greatest women's wrestling loves, and just an all around supporter of me too. Over the past few years was there as well. And it was so great to see her on WWE television again. And there is something that I did want to address about these women legends showing up. Um, I do want to say that I would love it if these legends who are being signed to legends contracts are able to produce women's matches as well. um, don't just have these women just showing up, just making appearances and stuff. Like have them working behind the scenes and actually have them producing matches. Because I know they've had Molly Holly producing matches before, but I do want, a more conducive environment for more women legends like that to produce women's matches and women's content in WWE to progress stuff forward. And Mickey James has proven that she can produce a show, multiple shows in the past. So if she can work with WWE in that aspect, might not necessarily on screen if she doesn't want to, but if she can produce, that would be fantastic. So utilize the knowledge that these women have. Don't just have them popping up at events and stuff. Utilize their wrestling brains, please. But it was really great to see her in the swing of things in WWE, and it was just really cool to see all of the legends that were there as well. Now, in speaking of authentic blackness, I want to give a shout out to the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff's marching band. They did a pretty great job playing Kingdom by Downstate, which is, of course, Cody Rhodes' theme song that they went viral for playing at a football game. And it was just really amazing to see them there. Now, of course, there were a couple of hiccups that they had with the music as the real theme started to play. But as far as I'm concerned, when they started off playing it on their own, they sounded fantastic. And just to hear everybody singing along with them playing, just gave me chills. Like it was just really wonderful. And the fact that this is an HBCU band, which is the second of its kind to be in a WWE event like this, because of course the first was Texas Southern for Bianca Belair at WrestleMania years ago. I am just so happy that black bands are having opportunities to show themselves on a large platform like this. It is such a huge deal. Because for all we know, there could have been somebody in the audience or somebody watching on Peacock with their parents and says, you know what, when I grow up, I want to be in a band just like that. And stuff like that helps the health of HBCUs as a whole. So I'm just really happy for University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff having that opportunity. And I always support HBCUs, even though I did not attend an HBCU. A lot of people who I love in my life attended them and graduated from them. And I will always support them, going forward because it's important. It's really important. And them having a moment like that was just really great. And then, of course, seeing the dance girls take a picture with Cody Rhodes backstage was also really good too. So props to them for that. HBCUs matter, all of the above. That was fantastic to witness, and I just loved it. It was great. And then, of course, speaking more into Black culture, we had lots of appearances from various rappers and people in the music game. And one of them was Quavo, who, of course, was formerly of Migos. He was present, and I couldn't help but feel that if Takeoff was here with us, he would be there as well. But rest in peace to him. I know he was definitely there in spirit. Um, it was just really cool to see Quavo there. There was a point where I was looking around and I looked over and saw his sunglasses and I was like, "Wait, is that Quavo?" And somebody and a group of women who I'll get to in a minute in front of me were like, "Yeah, that's Quavo." And I was just like, "Oh my God, it's just really cool to be in the same room as like celebrities like that. You're breathing the same air as them. Like, what the heck?" Like, it was almost like being at the BET Awards, except it wasn't the BET Awards. It was cool. Then you had Lil Baby there with a lot of kids. I don't know if those are his kids or someone else's children that he just decided to bring, but he was there and that was amazing. And then of course, you had Metro Boomin, who's just been a part of all of the advertisement for Bad Blood since the announcement of it with Cody Rhodes doing the classic stakeout at the State Farm Arena. And he was a part of the festivities. He even went to like the party that the hosts were having. It was just really cool to see him being in like the mix of everything. And even low key cracking on Chelsea Green saying that she stunk like trash from her um dumpster match. That was really funny. So shout out to Metro Boomin. I enjoyed seeing you being a part of things. And if all else fails, we'll always have BBL Drizzy. So yeah, that was cool. And we also had Little Yachty show up too. That was cool. They had a flash of him at the party along with Peter Rosenberg, and that was really interesting as well. I thought maybe he would have sat in front, and I think maybe he did. Somebody said he did, but I didn't see him in the moment. So shout out to Little Yachty for being there as well. Now, as we get back to the action, we have to talk about Finn Balor versus Damian Priest. Now, of course, these two have been beefing with each other for months, ever since the dissolution of the Judgment Day, as we knew it, of course, without Edge. And it was a very emotional fight, but they were both just fighting back and forth. It was very physical. And something that I enjoy from watching Damian Priest wrestle is just seeing how, even though he has size to him, he can move very quickly due to his background in martial arts. And I really enjoyed seeing him take down Finn Balor in that way. Like, it was just really cool to see him, use his legs and all of his kicks and his strikes and everything. Like, he really gave Finn a run for his money. But of course, Finn had to be vicious. And then on top of that, he was going to use the mind games of the Judgment Day to come out and help him cheat. And right when it looked like Carlito and JD McDonough took advantage of him, Damian Priest wound up kicking out and fighting out of it, and even hitting a couple of razor's edges on him to get the upper hand and win. And it was just really cool to see him win, and just to see how, and even talk about how emotional it was for him to fight Finn, who he once considered a brother, at the press conference. But it was still a really um major victory for Damien on his own. And I'm glad that he was able to do it on his own instead of having, it, like, with the exception of Finn, well, in comparison to Finn, who needed to use his brothers to try to win. So it was really good for him. I'm glad he got that victory. And I'm pretty sure now he's going to refocus on things like the World Heavyweight title, like he said in the press conference. But of course, the Judgment Day is just going to try to make everybody's life a living hell, because they just don't know how to do nothing else. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. And surprisingly enough, we didn't see Damien on Raw tonight. But either way, I enjoyed this match. And then, of course, we had the tag team match of the century involving Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes versus Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa, the Timu bloodline. And when I say this match was a really good back and forth, and it was also kind of wild, it really was wild. And something that I did appreciate about this match was just how good Jacob Fatu was doing throughout the match. Because as you can see in this picture, it's not flattering towards the real tribal chief, but he super kicked Roman Reigns. He hit an insane backwards moonsault off the top rope. Like, Jacob Fatu really has been in his bag since he's gotten up. Well, not called up to the main roster like he was in NXT, but since he made his SmackDown debut, he really has been kicking all kinds of butt, and he just gets more and more impressive. The more I see him fight, and the more I see him wrestle. And of course, shout out to Muscle Man, Muscle Malcolm, and also Sir Wilkins for yelling, "I love you," the same way Jacob Fatu be yelling at Solo Sikoa. It was hilarious. But either way, Jacob Fatu was definitely a shining light in this match. And Roman Reigns, from a storytelling perspective, was really great in this match as well. And also from a sexy perspective, Roman Reigns looked fine. His abs were abbing, his chest was chesting, and his arms were arming. Roman, for someone to be he's been wrestling for so long, but for someone to just be consistently fine all the time, he just is. And Lord bless it. Um, women are. I feel like women and the gays are just blessed to to just look at that gorgeous man because he's just so he's just wow. I can't even hold it. It's just really great. But Cody Rhodes also had an insane spot where he decided to jump off of the top rope onto Jacob Fatu into the commentary desk, and Roman essentially was sort of left behind. And just when you thought it was looking like he wasn't going to get the upper hand on Solo and the rest of the bloodline, we have the return of Jimmy Uso. We have not seen Jimmy since April when he lost to his twin brother Jay at WrestleMania. We have not seen him since then. So the idea of him popping back up here at Bad Blood in order to call the play, as Roman Reigns said to him, and be by his side after he talked about how he lost him and how Solo and them took him out. It was just very emotional and very beautiful, and they hugged each other, and it was just so nice. And I was just like, you know what? Roman, you may have hurt my feelings 2 years ago at WrestleMania in LA, but I like that you and your family are coming back together. But I'm still a little bit confused because during the promo that Roman was having with Cody in the Georgia Tech field, you could feel that there's still a level of um what's the word am I looking for? Entitlement. There's a level of entitlement that Roman Reigns feels to the landscape of WWE as the top guy that he used to be. And of course, he told Cody that he was coming for the title, but Cody told him it's not yours to take. So, with him losing everything and now gaining at least Jimmy back, does this mean he's going to go back to abusing Jimmy? Does this mean he's going to keep treating Jimmy like he's his do boy or whatever, or keep telling him no yeet and all of that? Like, does this mean that Roman hasn't learned any lessons? I guess we just have to wait and see. But at the same time, it was nice to at least see them hug each other, and for Roman to not feel alone. That was nice. That was a great visual, but I just hope that Roman doesn't just go back to treating um Jimmy the way that he used to treat Jimmy. Like, don't just recreate your bloodline and then just repeat the same destructive patterns. Like, do it differently this time. Grow, learn from your mistakes. So, yeah. In the comments, we have Strap Facts. Thank you for watching on YouTube, saying Jacob Fatu wrestles like he's back in jail next week. That's funny. Um, it was really insane, but it was a very cool tag team match. And of course, Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns wound up winning. So that was fun. But in the midst of them celebrating and them staring each other down, we had Mr. Rock. Hold on a second, y'all. So The Rock showed up. The Rock decided to surprise your girl again. Y'all remember back in February when he popped up in Birmingham on an episode of SmackDown when Cody told Roman that he was going to take his championship, but just not at WrestleMania this year, and everybody was just shocked and just dismayed, which of course triggered the "We Want Cody" movement and all of the above. That was the first time The Rock shocked my socks off this year. And now he did it again. And I'm just sitting there low key about to cry, just preparing for the end of the show so we can go to the press conference or whatever. But I'm low key in tears because he just can't keep getting away with this. The Rock, Dwayne, The Rock Johnson, the final boss, the people's champion, The A-list movie star just can't keep getting away with following me when I'm in the South. For me to be in two different Southern cities and for him to surprise me two separate times in the same year is just absolutely unbelievable. And I just can't even believe it. I feel so blessed to have been present for both of those. But I just cannot believe it because at first I saw him post on Instagram that he was in Georgia with for a school thing, and at first I was just like, okay, well maybe he's just with the kids and maybe he won't show up at Bad Blood. Boy, was I wrong. He showed up at Bad Blood, and then not only did he pop up in front of the Tron, he counted one, two, three, and then the music hit again, and then he left and cut like a whole long promo walking backstage at the State Farm Arena, dapping up random people working back there and stuff, and going outside into the parking lot. And I'm just like, Dwight, what are you doing? Why are you counting one, two, three? What does this mean? And a part of me was thinking, like, so does this mean he's going to beat up all three of the people in the ring, like Cody, Roman, and Jimmy? Does this mean that he's going to be in the War Games match with them as his team members? But then somebody else showed another clip of Solo Sokoa, taking refuge in the audience, and he said it's all a part of the plan. So does this mean that The Rock is actually in cahoots with the Timu bloodline, and he's trying to take over from Roman Reigns to do a long setup into WrestleMania in Las Vegas? What does this mean? What does any of this mean? But either way, I was just so happy to see him, so excited that he just popped up in the South again and popped up on me for the second time this year. You just can't even make this stuff up. But this was a very memorable ending and it was just really cool. But of course, there's one more match I have to discuss that I really wanted to, save for last. And that's, of course, the Hell in a Cell match between CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. These men put on an opening match that could have very well been in the main event. And a lot of people were gunning for it to be in the main event. But at the same time, I understand now why it wasn't. But it's just like these men put on probably one of the best hellacious Hell in a Cell matches I have ever seen in my life. This is only my second Hell in a Cell that I've witnessed live. My first one was Finn Balor versus Edge at WrestleMania in LA. And for this to be my second one, this was just really, really good. It was carnage, it was blood everywhere. They were really trying to destroy each other. And I felt that even after CM Punk cut that promo, um, a week ago on Raw, and he told Drew McIntyre that when you're wiping the blood from your face and you're praying for mercy, it's not going to be a God that you're praying to, and it's not going to be the devil that you're praying to. You're going to be praying to me. And I thought it was so poetic that even though that he was on his knees, and yeah, he did wind up hitting CM Punk in the crotch, but at the same time, it was still amazing that he was even on his knees because CM Punk was beating his behind and Drew was beating his behind. But the toolbox, I was not expecting. That felt like an episode of Scandal when Huck would just come out with the toolbox and just ready to torture you with all his tools of anguish. And it just felt really insane. And the fact that Drew's head was actually bleeding from it was just really insane. And then the fact that Drew McIntyre was so petty that he poured out all those beads from from all the friendship bracelets or whatever, and then thought he was going to destroy CM Punk only for CM Punk to be smart enough to move out of the way. And Drew injured his back against the steel steps and the beads. It was so hilarious. Me and Malcolm were like, "Oh my god!" We were screaming. It was just like the craziest thing ever, because he legitimately landed in a way that looked like it would have hurt his lower back, and everybody was just cut open. Everything was just bloody. At one point, I thought CM Punk was going to submit Drew McIntyre with a tool. Like it was just out of this world. And I'm definitely gonna watch it back when I have a chance, because that was just easily one of the best cage matches as a whole that I have ever seen. And definitely one of the best Hell in a Cell matches I've ever seen. They definitely deserve all their flowers. CM Punk deserves all of his rest, even though for one point I thought he really was gonna pass out, because after he won the match, thank God, um he closed the door on the cell and could barely walk. And I was just like, CM Punk, oh my God, please no, don't be injured. Please no, please don't pass out. We just got you back. No. And they gave him some oxygen. He took the oxygen off because he wanted to walk off with his own strength. And he was just like, give me my wife and my dog. And I was just like, oh my God. It was just so emotional. And of course, tonight on Raw, he cut a promo talking about how he just doesn't know when he's going to be back, because Hell in a Cell took a lot out of him. And I can tell it did. So I guess at this point, he's just going to chill out, because, Hell in a Cell really took his soul back and forth and his body back and forth. So we just got to wait and see what's going to happen there. But this match was fan freaking tastic. And of course, if you missed it, please go back and watch it on Peacock or on the WWE network, depending on where you are, because this was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. This is how you do it. It was great. It was great. I can't say enough great things about this match. It was fantastic. So yeah, that's pretty much all of what I felt about Bad Blood, the card. Um, but there is something else that I really feel is important for me to address as a content creator in this space. And that is, of course, well, no, there is one more thing I do need to talk about the card. Um, and that's Triple H, of course, the chief content creator, um, unveiling the new Crown Jewel Championship, which all of the champions, all the top champions on both shows, will be fighting for at Crown Jewel at the beginning of November in Saudi Arabia. So essentially, now that Sami Zayn versus Gunther has happened on Raw, and Gunther has retained the World Heavyweight Championship, at Crown Jewel, this event is going to be tentpoled by a champion versus champions match for the men and the women. So Cody Rhodes will be fighting against Gunther for this iteration of this big, beautiful belt. And Liv Morgan will more than likely be fighting Nia Jax for the women's version of the Crown Jewel champion. And they will have the distinction of holding said titles if they beat each other, if either one of those people beat each other at Crown Jewel in November. And this belt really caught me off guard. I really thought for a second that they were going to announce that there was going to be a women's mid card title, which would have been fantastic. But, they're doing Crown Jewel stuff, so I'll just let it cook. And I appreciated the fact that they're making it champion versus champion, because, of course, these are matches that we probably would have gotten in an average Survivor Series pay per view that wasn't centered on War Games. And I thought that this was a smart way of sort of bringing back the champion versus champion thing without making it brand versus brand, because Survivor Series is going to be War Games again. So I thought this was a smart way of doing that while also feeding into the Saudi Arabian audience. So, of course, politics aside with that going on, because I don't want to address it because I really don't know enough about it. From a show perspective, it's really smart, and I can't wait to see how it turns out. And I also wonder if once whoever wins both of these titles, will they be able to carry it on television? Or will they just hold it until they have to pass it to the next person next year? I don't know. But either way, I thought this was a pretty unique announcement, and I just can't wait to see how everything turns out with these rivalries, because Nia and um Liv should be very interesting. And of course, Gunther versus Cody should be very interesting as well. But then, of course, you have the X factor with the women, of Tiffany holding Money in the Bank, and she could very well choose to cash in on either Naya or Liv. So you just never know. But either way, this was a very interesting announcement to make, and it's very clever and very smart. So it feeds into two different audiences of wrestling on two different sides of the world, and you can't really beat that. So I'm okay with it. Now, also, Goldberg was there, and even though he isn't my favorite person right now because he said some very unsavory things about people like Asuka, who actually um broke his undefeated record, which you could put an asterisk on at this point in life. It was really insane to finally see Goldberg in Georgia after 30 years of my life has passed by, because as a WCW slash WWE baby, Goldberg versus the man formerly known as Hulk Hogan was my very first wrestling match that I ever saw on TV. And so the idea that now 31, now that I'm a kid, now that I'm an adult, and seeing Goldberg in Georgia, it was a full circle moment for me. I enjoyed it. I texted my dad and was just like, I finally saw him in Georgia. It only took over 30 years, but here we are. And this was insane, but I really don't have an interest in seeing him back in the ring again, even though him and Gunther had that little back and forth, and Gunther was basically like insulting him in a very, very personal manner in front of his wife and son, who's playing football for Colorado now. I don't need it. I don't need Goldberg right now. I don't need it. So yeah, Asuka did not deserve you throwing shade at her, Goldberg. She didn't. So, yeah. But the child in me will always appreciate what you did for me in WCW. And that's all I have to say about that. Now, to the elephant in the room. And this is interesting because this is an elephant in the room that I was present for. So, for those who sent nice messages and commented on my pictures and stuff that I posted of me at the press conference, thank you guys so very much for your support and for your love, and for even celebrating me in that way. Um, I was raising my hand a lot, and I didn't get called on this time, but it's okay because I'm finding that there is true blessings in being in the room, and there are blessings in not even having to do a lot, but also just being present, and just how powerful that was. And I will say this, it was definitely interesting, though there were other women in the room with me, like Issa and like Emily May, and like Denise Salcedo. I was the only black woman in the room, and that was interesting. But I am proud to have been there and to represent who I am and this brand and Daily DDT as well. And hopefully this will not be the last time I get invited in a room like this, and this won't be the last time I will be asking questions like this, like I did at Money in the Bank and all of the above. So I'm really blessed to have been there. However, being in the room does have its challenges. And one challenge that presented itself in a weird way was TJ Legacy from the Soapbox. Shout out to him. He's a guy that I met for the first time at Bad Blood. Asked Triple H a question about the representation of black males on PLEs in WWE and how they haven't been featured on PLEs in the past few months. And Triple H answered the question by saying that he does not see color. And after that, because I was raising my hand and because I was also listening to him at the same time, it was really awkward to hear, because as a black person, you hear this a lot from white people who say this and mean it in a way that I guess the best way for me to explain it right now is to say, that whenever a white person might say, "Oh, well, I don't see color," or any other person says, "Oh, well, I don't see color," they say it as a means of saying, "Oh, well, I'm not a racist person," or "I'm not this bigoted person that just treats people unfairly because of their differences or because of their race." And I know what the intent is whenever people say that. And if, of course, you are not a racist person, if you are a decent person within, and if you aren't hateful within, then I appreciate that, because I just don't we don't want to deal with hateful people. It's enough of that going on in the world. And if you are not a hateful person, then that's great. But I feel like what a lot of people don't understand, a lot of white people don't understand, is when they say that, it also gives off the impression that you have never had to see color because you are the default. You don't see the difference because you are the default um in the world and in the United States. And the way I can explain it is the face of Marvel of the MCU is always going to be Robert Downey Jr. because of Iron Man. They didn't start off thinking, "Oh, well, the face of Marvel is going to be a black person or a Hispanic person or an Asian person." They did that later on down the road because of all the plethora of superheroes that they had. But the first person that they decided to center it on was a white male. And that's no disrespect to Robert Downey Jr. or anything that he's ever done, because I love him as an actor. I love his work, and I love his story and everything that he's risen above to get to where he's at. But in the United States, whiteness is seen as the default. And that falls into wrestling too. It even feeds into the Mr. McMahon documentary, where even he said that he didn't see color. And even, The Rock even mentioned that Vince said that he didn't see color. He only saw green or whatever. But there is a blind spot to that when you say you don't see color, but yet all the people that you put out in front to be the faces of your things are always majority white people or European people or people who just so happen to be white facing from other places. It's a problem. It's a blind spot that you have when you say you don't see color. Because if you say you don't see color, it's almost as if you're saying, "Well, I don't care about the differences of a person." When you're getting to know a person, you have to get to know everything about that person, even the parts that make you uncomfortable. And I thought that maybe we had reached a point where we could have conversations about this in a healthy way, but I guess we haven't. We reverted back to what it used to be. And we really have to start back having these conversations. Just because you say that you don't see color or you don't see a difference does not mean that the difference isn't there. Because Triple H, once upon a time, was in a feud with Booker T, and he told Booker T that somebody like him didn't deserve to be world heavyweight champion. And he went on to beat Booker T. And that made the black community feel a way and still makes them feel a way to this day. And when a white person says that, whether it be in wrestling or otherwise, it's a microaggression. "Oh, well, somebody like you has no business in this neighborhood," or "Somebody like you has no business driving a car like this," or "Somebody like you shouldn't be in first class." That is a microaggression. And that means that if you're black or if you're a person of color, then you're supposed to be less than, or you're supposed to be poor, or you're supposed to be driving a hoopty, or you're supposed to be unsuccessful or never do well. And that's not the case. And when it comes to wrestling now and how it looks now, and even how Bad Blood even looked, from the hosts to the rappers to even Aja Smith, the referee, everybody, blackness is ever present in wrestling. And you can't just use it in the moments where you think it's cool. You have to be authentic about having these people at the forefront because they are talented and because they work hard for their opportunities. And that's not to say that he doesn't have the tools to tell these authentic stories, because he clearly does. And I'm going to get into why in a minute. But him saying that he doesn't see color was not the best answer. It was not the best answer at all. And it made me sad to hear it, sitting there in that room. Um, where he also, talked about how he could have had like a hip hop battle royal. Okay, yeah. But at the same time, hip hop was created by black people. And you have to recognize that that is a black art form. Atlanta is a black city. You had a black HBCU marching band playing Cody Rhodes' music. Just because you say you don't see color because you might not be a hateful person does not mean that the difference isn't there. And I want him to understand and open his eyes and see that the differences that he has is what's going to propel WWE forward into this new age that we are in, due to so many different circumstances. And he has the tools to figure it out. And by tools, I mean people. He has the people to figure it out, because even on Monday Night Raw, you have been seeing over the past few weeks seeds being planted for Xavier Woods to possibly manifest this negative part of himself and maybe turn on Kofi Kingston and break up the New Day as we know it, which is a stable that has done a lot for black wrestlers in the last 10 years. And that is a feud that could very well fall into either the Royal Rumble or WrestleMania in the future. It could play out just that quickly. You have um you have Kaden Carter, who is in a tag team with Katana Chance, and how she was on display along with Zelina Vega as well, in that 10-woman tag. You have your women's tag team champions, who are the biggest stars that you have in the company, in Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, with the tag division, and anything could happen with that. And then with them being on NXT tomorrow, you have on SmackDown Naomi, who could very well have another championship run in her if you give her the opportunity. You have Montez Ford, who just had a t shirt released with just him on it for the very first time, who is just gunning for the opportunity to be on his own, even though he's been with the Street Profits for so long. And they keep falling short of winning the tag titles over and over again. You have Angelo Dawkins, who could very well be a heavyweight. You have Carmelo Hayes, who could very well be feuding with LA Knight for the United States Championship. You, Triple H, with all due respect, have all of the tools to have these people on these PLEs in the future. It's playing out in front of us on television week after week after week. And that's just the truth of it. Now, he can utilize it however he sees fit, and we can watch it and just wait for it to cook. And it will cook, and I believe that it will cook because these seeds have been planted for a long time. But him saying, "Oh, well, I don't see color," was not the best answer for him to give, because color was all around him. And to end the show on a little bit of a high note, and to just talk about something that touched me on a deep level when it comes to blackness in wrestling, it's just one of the best moments at Bad Blood for me was me sitting in the section that I was in with media, and right in front of me were three black women, another big three. And one of them had on a t-shirt that had Jade Cargill on the front of it, and it looked like she had it made. And she was there with two other black women, and it looked like they were friends with each other. And they were just hee-heeing and ha-haing and enjoying the show and laughing about things and answering questions about things if they had it. And they were even talking to me at some points. And that was one of the most beautiful experiences for me, because seeing black women enjoy wrestling in that way without having someone bombard them and ask them how much stuff that they know, or you're not a real wrestling fan and all that other stuff, was just one of the most refreshing things I'd ever seen. It was like they were in a safe environment. They felt like they were safe with each other. They felt like they could have a good time, and it was just really nice to see that type of environment for women like that to thrive. And I just can't I just can't get over seeing stuff like that. And then on top of that, with today, um, being sort of like the second anniversary of me being a part of the Women of Color in Wrestling panel with Katrina from In Cat We Trust and a bunch of other brilliant and talented women in the wrestling space, it just sort of makes all the work that I do very full circle, because there are black women and other women of color and so many other women who want to get into it and want to love it for what they love it for and feel safe in that. And if I can be a part of that wonderful change, then I hope that I can continue to be a part of it. So that was a beautiful part of Bad Blood. I loved being in Atlanta. It was a beautiful experience. I loved seeing my family members in Atlanta. Shout out to all my cousins that I saw. Zaysha, Jasmine, Justin, Justina, my new baby cousin, Tori, and Hayden. Shout out to y'all. I love y'all so much. It was so good to see y'all. Shout out to Fran. It was just so great to be in that space and to experience all of that culture within that time, and and for it to just be next door, because a lot of these wrestling events be happening like in other states, like far off and everything, and in Canada and in Saudi Arabia. It was just nice to just go 2.5 hours to a wrestling event in Atlanta, and it just felt really good, and I felt like I was at home. So it was cool. Nikki, thank you so much for watching and encouraging people to subscribe. Thank y'all. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I love you. Love you, love you. Kisses. So yeah, that's the end of this episode of HWP Extra. I just wanted to come on here and address all of my feelings and stuff because of course, um about Bad Blood, because I was there and it was a very emotional experience. Even tonight while I was watching Raw and watching so many of the wrestlers make their entrance before the show initially started, I wanted to cry because it's right there. I just can't help but just think about how years ago, even as a child, like it just felt like these were just superheroes in a TV away from me, and I would low key wish for like the chance to just meet just one or talk to just one um at any point. And now life has coalesced in a way where we're breathing the same air, and I am just so grateful for it. And I hope that my voice can continue to give wrestlers and wrestling fans and other people who work in wrestling a safe space to just be and just talk about why they love wrestling and stuff. And it's just beautiful. And I just have to take time to really just smell the roses, because today, Angela, who is a huge fan of the show on Twitter and stuff, who might be watching right now, um, actually told me today, like, you are walking in a dream right now. Like, you are living a dream. And sometimes I feel like I try so hard to reach certain goals and make stuff happen for myself to the point to where I really just don't take time to look at everything I've accomplished so far and realize that I am living in a dream. And I actually am. So I'm really glad that she reminded me of that. And it's real. It's really real, and it can happen for either one of y'all. If y'all want to start a wrestling thing, do it. If you want to start a podcast, do it. If you want to write in a blog, do it, because you just never know where it could take you. And I just and I'm living witness to that. So I know I just got on here and just got all preachy. I'm sorry. But it's just been a beautiful experience, and hopefully this won't be the last. So thank you guys so much for watching the Hardy Wrestling Podcast Extra. And of course, know that you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Queen Steph Hardy, and on Instagram at Hardy Wrestling Podcast, and on Twitter at Hardy Wrestle Pod. And subscribe to the YouTube channel, like Nikki said, which is the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, where you can catch all the episodes live in that playlist, as well as my episodes of Steph and Cat Talk. Wow, we will be having a new double dose episode this week, maybe Wednesday or Thursday. Be on the lookout for that announcement. And maybe I'll do a new episode of HWP to talk about everything that happened in wrestling after Bad Blood, because there is stuff going on. There are changes that are happening, and I'm just really excited. So all of that is happening. Please go buy my merch at foryourwear.com/Hardy Wrestling Podcast, and just continue to support the show. Listen to it everywhere you get your podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and everywhere else you get your podcast. Listen to the audio, and just continue to support me and everything that I do in and out of wrestling. Read my articles on dailyddt.com, and just continue to support your girl. And you just never know where I might pop up. I might pop up in your city. I might pop up in somebody else's city. I might just be in my city. But either way, I'm going to be somewhere. So, of course, this has been the Hardy Wrestling Podcast Extra with your girl, Stephanie Hardy. And until next time, bye, y'all.